Darren Steele here with Leading from Human-Heartedness, and today I want to talk about the challenge of impatience. I'm calling this article, this episode, Impatient Leaders, Weary Minds, and why skipping self-care sabotages your influence. Now, this is for you if you're in any kind of a leadership role, senior management, directorial role, if you're a change maker, if you're a creative, if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, in which you are working in some way to be the change. You are showing up to lead by example, to help yourself, to help others in working towards a cause for the betterment of a common humanity. So let me start with a question. Let's check in for a moment. How do you feel right now? How do you feel? So take a moment. I'm just going to be quiet. I didn't give you any direction on that other than a question. So perhaps a little deeper. How do you feel with your breathing? Are you maybe breathing high up in your chest, or are you relaxed? Are you listening, watching this somewhere, sitting in a comfortable chair, everything's cool? Are you distracted, reading something else while you're actually watching or listening to this at the same time? Do you feel physically rested? Like, what is your physical position right now? I'm standing. I find it easier to deliver a podcast and I feel more energized when I'm doing that. But are you sitting? Are you slouching? Are you laying down? Other than your physical position, do you feel rested? Does your body feel like, I could get up and I could go do anything? Or do you feel like you just want to lie down? Now, on the emotional level, are you feeling frustrated, maybe angry? Are you annoyed at something? Do you feel like you've been rushing today, or that you have so much to do that you feel like you're not going to be able to get it all done, yet you're still watching this episode? Are the thoughts you're having, the conversation you're having in your mind, are they confused? Are they a jumble? Do you think or feel that you're suffering from some kind of cognitive mental overwhelm? It's like you want to take parts of your brain out and put it in a relaxation, vibration, massage chair and go, just chill out, brain. So this is the problem, right? It's for so many change makers, leaders, social entrepreneurs. The single most enduring challenge is that they very often do not take care of themselves first. They don't prioritize their well-being, their health, their fitness, their wellness. And maybe you think that you have been doing a good job of it. Or maybe you think, well, don't bug me about this right now. I'll get around to it later. I'll do it. But there's a big cost, a terrible cost actually, to taking this approach to your well-being, this idea of putting things off. And I've shared this idea before, if you know who I am and you've been following my work over the last month or so. If you don't feel well, you can't lead well. And what does that mean? Well, I have two answers to share with you. And the first one is kind of a little brutal. It's right getting to the heart of things. If you do not actively, consciously, regularly take care of your mental, your emotional, and your physical health, call that your well-being, then what the fuck is the point? Why? If you physically break down, if you have a physical break, and I mean literally, you could break something physically because you're so tired that you just twist your ankle, or you walk into a door and you break the skin enough that you have to get stitches. I've done that. And that's another story for another time. You're going to be taken out of your ability to show up with peace of mind and comfort and lead, right? Remember I said I had two answers? Or two ways of looking at this? This is the kinder one. Without good health, without well-being, meaning you feel well, it's going to be more challenging to access your creativity, your creative potential, your logical, rational, strategic thinking brain. It's going to be challenging not to default into emotional reactivity. He said, she said, they said, why is this all falling on me? Or feeling in some way threatened or stressed out, which will result in you being more confrontational and reactive, saying something before you consciously think through the words and the intention behind the words, which is terrible for quality leadership, instead of being accepting, compassionate, and understanding, humble, flexible, yielding, all of the qualities that make for a really exceptional leader. Do that once, and people might forgive you because they recognize that in themselves. Do that repeatedly, and you might lose your followers. You might get in trouble from your superiors if you work in a job or have a position within an organization. So the bigger question is, why does this happen? I said it at the top. Impatience. You know, I get it. If you are someone who stands up courageously and proudly to make a difference in the world, you probably feel compelled to do this kind of work, right? You wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I've got to fix this problem. I got to come up with a strategy, a solution. I've got to help the people that I'm working with. I've got to go finish that book, that program, that whatever, so that I can make a difference in the world. And most likely you feel like you're not spending enough time doing these things, right? But when other people depend on your leadership and your guidance, you need to spend just as much time, if not prioritize, your well-being, your self-care, so that when you show up to be supportive of others, you can be supportive of others. I remember many, many years ago when I was in fitness and nutrition coaching, personal training, I studied Thai yoga massage. It's kind of like the person I would work on is in a restful state, but I would be stretching them. But you also use your own body so that you can, let's say you might be pulling someone's leg back to stretch the quad, the front of the leg, or the hip flexor, and the muscles that attach the upper leg into the hip bones and the lower back. And I might be kind of one knee down, the other leg I'm on my foot, and I'm leaning back, holding the leg of the person. I'm bracing through my core, and I'm using my body to brace myself. So I'm getting a little bit of a stretch. I'm holding, and I'm allowing the resistance of their muscles to keep me from falling backwards. But besides the physicality, protecting my own physical health, protecting my low back when I was stretching that person, I had to also prepare myself before that person even came into the room where I was going to do the Thai yoga massage. I had to leave my baggage at the door. If I was stressed about something, and then I get into my head and I'm thinking about, oh, I've got to do this thing. And then suddenly I realize I'm not paying attention to the person I'm supporting. You see where I'm going with this? Something could go wrong. Maybe I wouldn't pay attention to the fact that I was leaning too far back, too quickly, not watching my low back, and maybe I would give myself a twinge, and then maybe I would fall back and pull them and rip one of their muscles. Or maybe I would be so caught up in my own drama that I would pull back too far on them and hurt them. So what I'm not saying is that this urge, this urgency, this feeling of impatience to want to make a difference, to make this happen, I'm not saying that's bad. Because as I've just said, this is precisely how I feel. It's like, what can I do? But if I get lost in the feeling of this urgency and this impatience that I need to help others now, I'm going to forget about the vital importance of taking care of my own needs first. To use a cliche that I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times already, well, when that air mask drops from the cabin above in an airplane, you secure your mask before assisting others. Because if you don't, you could go unconscious from a lack of oxygen, and then you risk your ability to help others. So if you've got someone who needs your complete support, a baby, best example, they can't put the mask on. And if you pass out, the both of you are probably not going to be in a very good way. The very same thing applies to every single kind of leadership. If you choose not to commit to your self-care, you're demonstrating the impatience of something you cannot control and the inflexibility to accept that truth. And what I mean by what you can't control is you can't control the outcome. You can't control how quickly something is going to happen. You can't control if, even in the best situation where you're feeling your best, you're taking care of yourself, you're leading, and someone doesn't follow your lead or someone doesn't agree with you. If you are not at your best in that situation, if that person decides to challenge what you've said or what you've suggested, how might you respond if you're not feeling well? So, building on that a little bit more, think about the negative, the less desirable experiences. When was the last time you were working with someone or other people or a group, maybe spending time on a creative project that required clarity of mind, as much as peace of mind, stillness, open-mindedness, open-heartedness, but you felt tired and stressed and overwhelmed and confused? How did that work out for you? How were you feeling in the impatience of forcing yourself to act in a particular way? And the operative word there was forcing yourself to act, not be a particular way. And how did you feel when you reflected on that experience after the fact, maybe a couple of hours later or later in the day or the next day when you had a chance to be rested and think, whoa, what happened? So let's flip this, right? The positive, the empowering, the light experience. What was it like when you were actively leading other people, a person or a group, or working on a creative project, and you were rested? You had a clear mind. You were open-hearted. You felt compassion for the people you were working with, and you were excited about what you were doing. This is now a different question. What was it that you did, or how had you taken care of yourself before that empowering situation? What were the things you did? What were you mindful of? Did you consciously prepare to make sure you could have that optimal experience? Or was this part of a regular well-being routine? Here's some further ideas to prompt your thinking. What did you do? Did you exercise? Did you do yoga? Did you lift weights? Did you go out for a jog? Were you mindful of how much you ate and what you ate at your last meal? Did you take care to optimize your sleep quality the night before? Did you take care of your mind by meditating, journaling, or spending quality time with your loved ones, social, playing with your dog, doing something that made you laugh? What did you do that for yourself you would call your well-being or your wellness action plan? And how much more effort did it require of you to lead and work from a place of feeling well, how much effort did it require of you to lead when you felt well compared to when you felt overwhelmed, frustrated, tired, or mentally burnt out? So let me end here with one more question, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this. How is not taking care of your health and well-being affecting the quality and the effectiveness of your leadership? Until next time, I've been Coach Darren Steele.